your prediction for today? Will it be cold or will it rain? You should see the way it looks outside my window. It's not exactly what I'm looking for. Where did all the colors go?
Let's start with, who is Siphesihle Kunene?
Wow. Siphesihle Kunene, like you just said.
Oh, that was an easy answer.
No, I'm kidding. Siphesihle Sangoma seZulu. I'm just a young boy from KZN, like you said, Tekax and Newcastle, and grew up there and started working. Well, I studied meteorology, University of Pretoria. Started working in 2011 at Bloemfontein with the office, which that's where I was forecasting. That's where I started actually forecasting and liking the weather for what it does on a day-to-day basis. And then afterwards, that's when I started enjoying what I did when I was presenting the weather. And I'm sure you can attest to that. It's fun working at this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, before we get to your work experience, let's get to what actually made you love meteorology. How did you stumble into meteorology? Okay, I know some people stumbled into it. I won't mention names, could be me. But then some other people actually knew from the beginning that they wanted to go into meteorology. So what is your history with meteorology? How did you get to where you are today?
Actually, I think maybe there was also a bit of stumbling towards it because actually, it's a long story. How much time do you have? Let's start there.
Don't worry, we have time. Don't worry.
Okay. So, when I was studying University of Pretoria, first thing that you must know, it's a long story. It's a story that has to do with maths, actually, unfortunately, or fortunately, actually. So it started like this. I didn't get into straight BSc because I did my maths standard grade. That's a long story why I did it standard grade. Even though, well, it was good marks, I had an A, but they're like, nope, you need to do the extended program. So did the UP5, it was called the UP5 program. I actually studied in Mamelodi. Do you know that UP has a Mamelodi campus?
Yes, I've heard about it. Yeah.
So that's why I did my first year. And then after that, that's when I went into main campus. And then main campus, I studied again. I did first year. But then in that first year, I was doing physics. I wanted to be a physicist. I thought I was going to solve those problems, become the next Einstein or particle physics. But I was really interested in the leading edge of physics and what is actually happening, discovering new things that people don't know. That's what I was really interested in. But then afterwards, when maths really kicked my behind, like it does.
Always does. Always does.
So I found out that, you can't go into second year physics if you're not doing very well in maths. So I was like, okay, what do I do now? And then I was thinking of chemistry and all these things until I met a very wonderful lady, very lovely lady, and I'm sure you know her too. Her name is Lizo Dyson. And she just spoke to me. She didn't say, come join meteorology. She's like, what are you studying? Why are you studying physics? And then I told her that, oh no, I like science. I like knowing what's happening, why the world does the things that it does, why nature does the things that it does. And always have these questions that's unanswered, and science or physics seems to answer them in a very basic way. So she was like, oh, okay, I have something for you. It's close to that. The understanding science, but just a very specified version of science. And then the second part that I actually liked about meteorology is that in my years, we did the community project, which was part of using science to help the community. So in our year, we helped fix a fog net, which was built by the previous group, which was just collect water from fog and makes it to just collect water for people that don't have a constant supply of water, especially in the rural areas of Southern Africa. So after I saw that, okay, this is actually very good because you're learning science and you are helping people, not only on a day-to-day basis, which is what you do. This is what you can wear. And for companies, which is what I do, this is how you can protect your machines, your operations, and, all those things that you do for the community, the good parts. So that's why I learned to love it, to actually say, this I can do for forever. And then when I started presenting it, I was like, this I really love. So that's how I got
Yeah.
in a sense that physics was kicking my behind, and meteorology really came in and filled in the gap, in a sense that it is scientific, and it's day to day. You can experience it on a day-to-day basis. And it's nice, man. It's nice to know what's going to happen in the future.
That's so true. You know, Sise, one thing I'm really aiming to achieve in these videos is I want to show students that there's no an easy way to go into meteorology. There's so many corners that you can go into, because we all have our stories to tell about how we actually landed up in meteorology. And it wasn't just simply going into the BSc course and doing the honors and doing the training and then being a forecaster. A lot of us have these different stories, but one thing that's kind of the same thing out of all of us is science. And that's how powerful science is. It's opened the doors for all of us in meteorology. So yeah, I got your story. My story and your story are more or less similar. So yeah, it's a good thing we landed up here, because yeah, I'm also really enjoying the meteorology side right now. So
Let me ask you something. Did Lizzo ever take you guys outside to go and look at the clouds?
you see, no, unfortunately, I never met Liesel. I only studied at the University of the Free State. So I
Oh,
never met Liesel, but I've heard a lot of people talk about her, and she seems like a phenomenal woman. Yeah, so I never had the privilege of being taught by Liesel. I went through, see, those
okay.
back routes I
You
told you
see,
about.
exactly. There's so many, but because it pulls everyone together, just because it explains things and it answers your questions. Like, why
It
is it
makes
raining?
sense.
Oh, exactly. It makes sense.
Mm. So,
Yeah.
Sihle, my next question. So you worked in the Bloemfontein office for 5 years. So if you can just give people like a rundown of basically what you did there in the 5 years. Basically, what is it like? Take me through the daily operations or the daily tasks of an operational meteorologist at the
Yeah.
Bloemfontein.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's similar to what I do now, and it's similar to, okay, we couldn't do that at SABC, but it's all very simple. First thing, you observe. You want to know, if you want to know what's going to happen in the future, you need to know what is happening now or what has happened. Just like the
Mhm.
famous saying, you want to know your future, just know where you come from if you want to know where you're going. So the first thing, as a meteorologist, you come in, you observe. So it could be your satellite imagery, it could be your other stations that give us information. So in Bloemfontein, we were in charge of the Free State, the Northwest, and parts of the Northern Cape. So you're
Mhm.
focusing in the central parts, you look at what happened. And then after you've looked at what happened, you divide, now you come up with your own forecast based on the observations. Now, because we were at an airport, so Bloemfontein is sort of geared to service the aviation community. That's what we're there for. So the most important thing is to provide a forecast for Bloemfontein itself, which sounds like it's an easy thing, but it's not an easy thing, because you have to look at, of course, as you know, you look at the cloud bases, how tall the cloud is
Mm.
going to be, what type of cloud is it going to be, how long is it going to last, what the maximum temperature, the minimum temperature. So you forecast all of those things, but not only for Bloemfontein, so also Kimberley, Uppington as well. You look at those stations, and Mafikeng. So in the morning, you look at your observations, your satellite, your radar, and then you compile your forecast on something that looks like this. I'm going to show you now. I have, because like I said, all meteorologists have. So this is a map. You can see it. This is a map of
Yes.
South Africa,
Bring in the
and
graphs, Sihle.
I bring it in. Of course, but
Mm.
illustrations make things easier. So you
Yes,
look at
definitely.
Yeah, so basically, you look at why is it going to rain, where is it going to rain, you
Mm.
analyze those things, and you produce those very, very specific forecasts, especially for airports, so that planes can land easier, knowing what type of weather they can expect, and if there is even things like turbulence, you issue special forecasts for that, which is all just the aviation community trying to make flying, as safe as it is today. Like I said,
Mm.
flying is the safest mode of travel. And as meteorologists, we are part of that. Yay, clap hands for us.
Hey, we really are.
We really are. So
You
that's
know,
what I like.
one thing you know what they don't tell us about being an operational meteorologist are the calls. Yeah, it sounds great when you're going to be sitting at the desk and you're going to be forecasting and it's just a great day for you, but they don't tell you about the calls that are coming in while you're busy with this forecast. So you'll get that lady who's getting married in Paris, you'll get that pilot who's taking off in Uppington and going to Namibia. So yeah, it gets busy. It gets busy. I don't think people they know that part of meteorology as well.
Really nice, really nice. You know about pigeon racing. That's why I learned about pigeon racing. That's people, there's a
I,
lot of
one person actually told me they bid 1 million rand on a pigeon. So that's when I actually Googled it and I checked out what pigeon racing is. So those are just one of the things that you learn when you're on the desk. So, Sihle, another question is, so when you moved to the ACPC, I can imagine it was a huge transition from being an operational meteorologist to now a broadcasting meteorologist. Can you just tell me what challenges you experienced when you made that switch?
oh, the biggest challenge was having to live with makeup on every day as a guy.
And we know how men feel about makeup
Oh my
already. Now
goodness.
imagine them having to apply it.
No, you know what the thing, you know how I feel right now? I can just touch my face anytime I want to. I can just rub my hands and if I feel like there's a bit of sweat, I can do this. But I could not do that while I was working at the SAPC. You couldn't just, because I'd forget as a guy, that's one of the things when I was new, and they go, you put on makeup, blah, 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 you're done. And there I am eating, I'm wiping with my, I'm like, oh my goodness. Oh, it's now I have to look for something because I forgot. It really takes a lot for a guy to accept that, okay, I now wear makeup. And sometimes when I forget to wipe it off or remove it, to be going to my friends, they'll be like, dude, what's wrong with you? They want to touch your face. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you so like, oh no, I have makeup on. Like, are you sure you're straight? Hey, then
Yeah. And you know, every time you smudge your makeup, the makeup artists are also kind of they get fed up with you because they're like, it's this one again. How many times do we have to tell you to stop touching your face? And honestly, it's just one of those things you really forget because you'll be busy, or especially when you work the morning shift, when you work morning live. So you'll be fresh from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. I don't know what happens after 9 a.m. You just start to hibernate. So now you're trying to stay up, but now you can't even touch your face. It's a lot of challenges that we go through. It's a lot of challenges that we go through.
No, but
But
it was
then,
really fun. Other than that, it was really fun working at
mm,
SAP. Yeah, and not really a lot of challenges because remember, we're not forecasting the weather, so we're not in charge of making sure that it's accurate or anything. We are presenting it. We are adding value by explaining it in a way that people understand better, as we know how the product is made. So
yeah.
it was more of like it was the topping, it's just the icing on top of the cake. That's what we were doing. And so it was mostly fun. Besides the makeup problem, didn't really explain issues. Not really. No. Mm-mm.
And
Fine.
how was it like your experience in front of the camera? Because I know it can be overwhelming at times, especially when it's your first time. Okay, the first 100 times I promise you this, it's not easy. But how was your experience and how were you adapting to all of that?
I think I took to it very quickly because it was something oh, I'd been looking forward. I was really looking forward towards it, and I feel like I'd been doing it forever. Let me tell you a bit of just a bit of history about where my education back in not even in high school. You remember that thing that started back in the day called OBE?
Yes.
Excuse me. So OBE, myself, I was part of the first people that studied or used that OBE system. And I remember we used to make a joke, but say, what does OBE stand for? So uthisha basifake ehlathini. But what oh, excuse me. There's something in my throat. Yo.
Sorry.
Ah, Corona. Damn.
No.
No, have a sip. Mhm. Okay, so I was telling you about OPE. No? One of the things that I really loved about it were presentations. And whenever in any group you do group work, group assignments, then we like, go and present. I was always the one presenting for some reason. Always, always. Whenever I was part of a group, they'll be like, good. We have our presenter. We're getting 10 out of 10 for presenting. Now let's focus on the rest of the projects and how we do it. But don't worry, guys, presenting. So I was always, always that guy. I loved it. And even when I was in Bloemfontein, I did focusing, but then there was this one thing that we used to do once a year, Techno Expo, Sasso Techno Expo, where you go and present to kids, high school kids, just interest them into joining meteorology. That's when I started talking, and that thing really sort of exposed me because I get them, and for a week you speak to a lot of kids. They bring about. I remember this one year we spoke to 21,000 high school kids, just talking to them. Of course, not 21,000 at the same time. Maybe they bring 30 from this school, 60 from this school.
Yes.
You know, those career expos. And for this Tuesday, remember they would say that Tuesday and Wednesday, that's the most hectic days. That's the most days where you have a lot of slots in and the kids come through on the day. And I remember I spoke for the whole day to such an extent that at the end of the day, when we were done talking, I remember it was 5 o'clock with my colleagues and I didn't want to say a single word. When I was sitting in the car, keeping quiet alone, I could hear my jaws, you know, your jaws right here, they were vibrating. And I could hear like, a small in my head. Is it me? Am I going crazy or what's happening? And I could feel that no, I was talking so much for the whole day because if you can touch your jaw while you're talking, you hear that it vibrates just a little bit. So just those vibrations going through the whole day, and you have to make sure that you're audible, you're
And you are
projecting
repeating the same
the
thing over and over and over.
yeah. But I was really glad at the end when they had a prize giving ceremony, and it was my first time I got an award for the best lecture. Though it was second place, but for someone that was doing for the first time, talking to kids and just thrown in the deep end in a way because we yeah because of a lot of things didn't really prepare to as much as I'd wanted to. So it was really something that gave me a push, and I was like, maybe presenting is something that is quite easy for me, and therefore I should go lean towards it. And so I said BC, I said it was really easy, it was really fun, and yeah. What did you ask again?
You answered all my other questions that I was about to ask you, but thank you. You've kind of looped
Ah.
everything up for me.
Oh,
So, Sihle, last question. So, life after the SABC, you left, I think, around 2018 or 2019, 2018. Yes, you left after. Yeah, you didn't give people any notice. You just disappeared off the screens. Like, I feel like we could have spoken to the desks and they could have done this thing, they could have rolled this thing for you before you leave, just to notify everyone. Because honestly, for as long as I've been working at the SABC, people have been asking me what happened to Sihle? Where is he? And I hope this video gives some clarity. You didn't just disappear into thin air. So life after SABC, Sihle, what happened?
Well, I'm still the weatherman, but for a smaller company now. It's more here in Southern Africa, but we actually want to take over Africa. It's called Africa Weather. And we are focusing for a few private clients. Basically, like I said earlier, we protect the infrastructure for private companies, golf clubs, and even schools. As a myriad of solutions that we have that are specifically weather related to that basically provide protection, alarms, and sort of guidance in these difficult times that we are currently facing. I'm at Africa Weather, and that's what we do basically. And it's fun. Right now, I'm in touch with the weather every day. I focused it. So it was LOEs. I've been stressed for like 2 weeks,
Yes.
even before it started, and now it's continuing. It's becoming something else, and of course, we're going into winter. But it was really fun because I needed a full year to see all the systems going through, and then you focused all of them. And now that I'm going through it again for the second time, I feel much more confident. Oh, I've got it again. Let's go back and actually let's do this. I remembered why I became the weatherman. It's actually fun to know what's going to happen in the future.
You should see the way it looks outside my window.